Before this video starts today, I just want to say thank you to our patrons, Nanani no Nora Paidrei. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. And let's go ahead and get today's video started. Hey guys, it's Vandy. We're back at another card fight Vanguard deck profile. So you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and join the Patreon. Let's get started. Today we have Granblue, Cocytus, with Yaeverse. So, as you know, Cocytus just got a reverse unit like 2 days ago. No, not 2 days. Well, a few days ago. And it's an okay card. Like, I'm not going to say it's my favorite reverse unit because that honor does belong to another card. I do think it's a bit finicky, but I find it interesting. So we're doing a deck profile on it, as we're going to do deck profile with all the things. So let's go ahead and get this one started. First up, we have our starter, which is Captain Night Kid, 6k base, 10k show, grade 0 boost. Auto, when it's wrote upon, draw a card, then if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 1 or grade, you get a quick show ticket to your hand. Standard starter ability, nothing special about it. You get that draw, you get that quick show, which is going to come in as discard fodder later. All around is an okay card. The reason why I chose this as my starter is just because, like, while there is technically Guiding Zombie who would fit the theme better, Captain Night Kid was the starter that Goki, what was his name? Goki, there we go. Goki used when, he used Cocytus Reverse in the anime, so I might as well make it Captain Night Kid as well. Plus, he's my favorite starter from Granblue, so, yeah. And then our trigger line, we run 8 crit, 4 Mortal Mimic, 4 Night Spirit, 4 draws in Gustion, 5k base, 0 show, grade 0 with boost. Get draw trigger, by the way. Continue Sentinel after 4 Sentinels in your deck. And Auto Guard Circle, when placed, discard a card from your hand. One of your units cannot be entered into battle. Standard PG, not too special about it. You run it because, you run the 8 crit because you want to be aggressive, especially once you ride the Neuro Cocytus, who doesn't really do anything Granblue related, I guess, so it's kind of disappointing from him. But like, you want to run that draw trigger because Cocytus is discard 4, and Great Scott, discarding 4, that's a lot of hand cards. Or at least to me, that's a lot of hand cards, and with the way I play this deck, that's definitely a lot of hand cards. So 4 Gustion, because you might need it for drawing purposes, of course. Plus, this deck doesn't hyper mill, so you're fine to run draw triggers. And then our heal is 4 copies of Good Luck Charm Banshee. Reason why we're not using the Heal Guardians is because I don't like Heal Guardians. They don't fit my playstyle. Which is basically, if I don't have a grade 3, purposefully discard Z grade 3 during the opponent's turn so I can G-assist. But the problem with it is that Heal Guardians actually have shield, and their abilities would go off if I haven't ridden a grade 3 yet, and they could possibly stop me from taking damage, which I normally use for Counterblast in the early game. So Heal Guardians in me, not really a thing. If you want to put Heal Guardians in your version because it fits you, do it, but in my opinion, I'm not running Heal Guardians just because I don't like them. I'm not saying they're not good, I just don't like them. So 4 copies of Banshee. And then we're on to our grade 1s. 2 copies of Skeleton Sea Navigator, 7k base, 10k show, grade 1 with boost. Add rear guard, rest 2 rear guard, put 5 cards on top of your deck and a drop. Okay, you run this. Because the Neurococytus requires the Vanguard to swing first, you need to make sure that first attack adds pressure, aka the 20 plus 20,000 and plus 1 critical. So you use Navigator to build up your drop zone early, get to like 20 drop zone cards, and then proceed to ride. Plus it also sets up for the Neurococytus to add shield during your opponent's turn. That's why Navigator's in here. Mill out your deck, get you more power. All around, he's a really good card, and because there's Columbard and other milling cards in this deck, like get stuff from drops and back into hand, he is to some extent searchable. Searchable is like a loosely used word here because you can search them from your drops. So 2 copies of Navigator. 3 copies of Witch of Powdered Bone, Negrobone, 8k base, 10k show, grade 1 boost, act drop zone, discard a card from your hand and put it to bottom, call a grade 1 from your drop zone to rear, and if your drop zone has 10 more cards, you may call regardless of grade instead. So, it's really good. It's only a discard, which just fills up your drop zone and possibly gets you the thing that you want to call, sends stuff to bottom so you are getting a deck card back, and call a unit to board, especially because, like, once more, Neurococytus, unlike every other grade 3 more or less, doesn't call like other Granblue grade 3s do, like Basskirk or Night Rose, so you need some way to call, and Negrobone kind of fixes that problem. So 3 copies of Negrobone because he's easy to use, and while there is no technical real call targets, you can make boards with him, so 3 copies. 3 copies of Tommy the Ghosty Brothers, 8k base, 10k show, grade 1 with boost, continues Vanna rear guard during your turn. If your drop zone has 5 or more cards, gets plus 5. So that's really easy, because you just have to use this thing once, and then this thing automatically hits plus 5. It's that easy, like it's a 13k base, so that's really good. And then Auto Vanna rear, when placed like a top 5, go to 1 grade 3 from them, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck. If you put a card, you gotta discard 1. Thankfully, this deck actually benefits from discarding grade 3s besides just for the sake of searching grade 3s just to discard them, because you can search for the reverse Cocytus, put into hand, discard the reverse Cocytus, and now it's in drop zone for setup plays later. So around Tommy's really good, get you the search, and this deck can actually take advantage of it, and it's really easy to hit the plus 5 mark, so 3 copies. 4 copies of Sea Strolling Banshee, 8k base, 10k show, grade 1 with boost. Auto was put on Van, search your deck after 1 card, discard, and shuffle your deck. So you're basically losing 1 deck card, but good news is this basically allows you to set up for literally anything. you can put your main grade, you can put Cocytus in there, or maybe reverse in there, so you can use it later. You can put maybe Columbard in there to loop into plays, or or like, say you have Greed Shade in hand, you can send something like a Navigator to drop zone, so you can get it back with Greed Shade later. All around, this thing's really good, it's very universal, you don't even have to send a normal, you can send a trigger too. This thing's really good, 4 copies. But then also, auto rear at the end of the battle that attacked or boosted, you may discard 2 cards on top of your deck, and then if there are 1 more triggers from among them, retire it, draw a card. So you don't run it for that skill, you do run it for the on-ride skill, but milling 2 cards is still pretty good, and it just fills up your drop zone really easily and can possibly get you a draw. So 4 copies, because it's just nice. Next up we have Ruin Shade. Grade 2, Intercept, 5k show, 9k base, 3 copies. Auto Van or Rear, when it attacks a Vanguard, put the top 2 cards of your deck into a drop zone, and this unit gets +4 for the battle. And the continuous rear guard during your turn, if your drop zone is 10 or more cards, it gets +4. So, when it swings, you don't have to mill 2, but if you want to mill 2, 13k swing. And if you had the 10 or more cards in drop, it's a 17k swing without boosting. All around, pretty good, nice in an early rush, and you can fill up your drop zone for free, and there's no real downside to running him. Honestly, he is one of my favorite cards from Granblue, and if he wasn't so expensive before the collection sets, I would have bought him in real life. 3 copies in Ruin Shade. 3 copies of Pirate Swordsman Columbard, 9k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept, auto Van or Rear, 1 place, counterblast 1, search after 1 card, put it to drop zone, shuffle your deck, and then call up to 1 card from your drop zone or rear. It is named once per turn, so you can't use it again. So, it's only counterblast, while the new while the new Cocytus may cost a counterblast. Columbard still makes it easier because, he's the only other counterblaster in this deck. Besides the other Cocytus, and, he can be placed on Van or Rear. And because the new Cocytus doesn't actually call stuff from drop, which I wish it did, this one can fetch you something from drop and send something into drop for you to fetch it. You don't have to send anything from deck to drop. If you just want to call something from drop, you can just call something from drop, and you don't have to call, you can just send something to drop zone, send something to drop zone. All around, Columbard is really good. If he wasn't named once per turn, this thing would be really broken in Night Rose. 3 copies of Columbard. 3 copies of Greed Shade, 9k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Can choose Van or Rear during your turn if your drop zone is 10 or more cards, it gets +5k power. Thank God that exists, because that is the sole reason why I did really good with this deck, because I had to place it on Van, and thankfully it still got to 5k anyways, because it's really easy to hit 10 drop zone cards when you have this thing on first grade 1 turn, and you can just kind of start milling like hell, and then auto rear, when place this card from hand, mill 2, add it to 1 card that isn't, add a card from your drop zone that isn't Greed Shade from your drop zone to your hand, so you have to add something. But pretty good that basically you get a free 3 mil, and you can possibly bounce one of those cards back to hand. So you can get a trigger for guarding power, you can maybe get a Cocytus for riding later. All around, definitely makes your deck your toolbox, and makes it a lot easier to not go into Geosystem, because as long as you hit a grade 3 and drop, you can probably get it back with this. So 3 copies of Greed Shade because it's an amazing grade 2, and everyone wants to run him. Next up, we have 4 copies of our last grade 2, Witch Doctor of Legor Negrolazy, 9k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept, auto Van or Rear. When placed, you may call a grade 0 from your drop zone or rear. Okay, it's on place from anywhere, get you a grade 0 to rear. You may be questioning why I run this over any other options, or put everyone up to 4. Here's why you run this. Because the new Cocytus requires you to lock 5 rear guards to do this with. This guarantees you 2. That's why. It's a lot easier when you can just call this from hand, get a card, or maybe just use a Columbard, send this to drop zone, call it back, use its skills, fetch a trigger. You have 3 of your 5 cards needed. Negrolazy is really good in this deck. He may be meant for the Cocytus play and nothing else, but he gets you a board when you need it, and it's for free, 4 copies. And then on to our grade 3s. 4 copies of Ice Prison Necromancer Cocytus, 12k base, grade 3 2 Protect Gift, continues Vanguard during your turn. If your drop zone has 10 or more cards, it gets +10. If you have 20 more cards, it gets +20 in a crit instead of 10. So, really easy to hit 10, so you're probably going to get that 22 either on first grade 3 turn, or before first grade 3 turn if you play my way, which is just called Navigator early and then just start milling like hell. Or, like I did on first grade 3 turn, once more, mill like hell with Navigator, +20 in a crit. So it's at 32 double critical. All around, it's plus really easy because Navigator isn't a once per turn. It just requires you to rest 2 rear guards. Neither of them have to be himself, so you can just call a bunch of triggers and then rest of them to get the 5 mil. All around, pretty good. Hits numbers, hits pressure, and even though you have to swing first with Vanguard to get the Nero Cocytus off, still does good on a first Vanguard swing because 20 with an extra critical is really hard to block, or really blockable. Wants them to PG it. And then act Vanguard once per turn, counterblast 1, mill top 4, call up to the number of grade 3 cards, call up to the number of grade 3 cards in your soul plus 2 cards from your drop zone to rear. If there's 1 grade 3, you call up to 3 cards. So, really easy, because you counterblast 1, you mill 4, and it gets you close to that 20k mark, but also, you at least get to call 2 cards from your drop zone because it's grade 3s plus 2. So you can call any 2 cards from your drop zone at the very least. If you are doing the setup-wise where you go first grade 3 turn Cocytus, then you ride reverse the same turn, then you go Cocytus next turn, and then that's essentially that's 4 calls, which is really nice. Get you a board, really easy to pull off. All around amazing card, and I love it, and a good card to sit on if you can't use reverse, even though you're most likely just going to end up in your drop zone really quickly. 4 copies. 4 copies of Ice Prison Hades Emperor Cocytus Reversity. Grade 3 Twin Jet Protective, 12k base, and as our last grade 3 and our last unit in the deck. Auto drop zone. At the end of the battle, your Vanguard Cocytus sends card name attacked to grade 3 or greater Vanguard. If it is the first battle of this turn, counterblast 1, discard 4, lock all of your rear guards. Then if you have 5 lock cards, write this as stand, and for each grade 3 in your soul, choose one of your lock cards, unlock it, and it gets plus 10 for the turn. So you can just counterblast 1 and discard 4 to counterblast 1 and discard 4 if you really wanted to, and then not get the ride and lose all of your rear guards, but you know, the first grade 3 turn that's not really good because you're calling a whole board, and while you can get most of your board from your drop zone, only one of your attacks will actually go through, so you only get 3 Vanguard attacks. Then again, it's not... No, it is once per turn because you're on... Unless you could unlock 5 at once, it is a once per turn. But it's still pretty good because it unlocks something, it gets plus 10, not the unit that was unlocked, which is kind of bad because otherwise that would make the deck apparently too good. I don't understand why it had to be specifically the first battle. I don't think Cocytus is that strong, or it couldn't just give the plus 10 to both it itself and the unlocked card, but I guess it was too good for that, apparently. And then Auto Van, when this unit is attacked, retire 3 rear guards, and this unit gets plus 10 until end of battle for every 10 cards in drop. So, unfortunately, you have to sack basically your entire back row for this, because who in the right mind is going to sack their front row for this? And you get a plus 10k power out of it for each 3 cards in drop. For each 10 cards in drop. So if you got this thing to 20 double critical on your first grade 3 turn when you rode this is going to be a 32k base. Now, my thing about this is I wish it could call from drop, because that'll make it so much better. Like, that's the reason why Skull Dragon's not in here, because Skull Dragon cannot be normal card, which means you can't just Greed Shade it back to hand and call it. The only way to call it back is with either Columbard or Negrobun. So, I wish he could do that. It's fine, though. He's still a pretty good card. Gets you power, slightly gets more pressure with your drive checks, and it's okay. It's not my favorite card. Definitely not my favorite, but it gets the job done if it needs to. So 4 copies of reverse. He does a thing. Do I agree with the thing he does? Not really, but do I think he's an okay card? Yes. And then we have our gift markers. We run 6 Protect 1, 6 Protect 2, so you're going to ride a decent amount. Protect 1 is basically a PG. When you acquire it, it goes into your hand, and you mainly place it on Guard Circle and continue Sentinel. You know what Sentinels are in Auto Guard Circle when placed. Discard card from hand, one of these cannot be into the battle. Okay, you typically pick this one. I'm not going to go over Protect 2 right now, because if you pick this one, you at least have a discard fodder when you're using reverse, because you'll just ride reverse and then get that PG back. So you at least have 3 cards you can discard, because your Twin Drive is going to give you 2, and then Protect gives you 3. You most likely have a full board at this point, because it was really easy to get a full board. Get one more hand card, and then you can discard this. All around, you want to pick Protect 1, just because, one for, the PG reasons, of course, because this guy is only once per turn with them kill 3 rear guards, unless you could get another rear guard out, and then, have 6 rear guards in total that turn. You want the PG for it, but also because it's for discard fodder, and Protect 2, the one you're less likely to pick unless you really think you need to rush your opponent down that turn. When acquired, it goes on a rear guard circle, and the unit on it gets plus 5k during both players' turns, and gets plus 10k shield with an intercepts and it does stack. So if you put 2 of them on the same circle, the unit on that circle is a plus 10k base during each player's turn, and when it would intercept, it gets plus 20k shield. Obviously, you don't pick this because despite the fact it's really good, you want the discard fodder that you can get back regardless. So, especially because Protect 2 is not going to do anything on a locked rear guard circle. So 6 copies of either of the 2, but honestly, you're going to go Protect 1. And then we have a quick shield, which won't even use attacks, it's plus 5k for the battle. Blitz order, nothing too special about it, just a 5k shield that you normally use for discard fodder. Here's a hint. I used it for discard fodder with this because last night when I was doing testing games, my hand was the following before I went to grade 3. 2 copies of this thing, 2 copies of this thing, and a quick shield. I had 5 hand cards, my opponent was going first, they were on grade 3 Ethics Buster, not reverse, just regular Ethics Buster, and if they rushed me I was going to die because I had literally 5 hand cards and only one of them was capable of guarding. Yeah, and I didn't really survive to my... I survived to my next turn, but then they rode their reverse card against my reverse card, and then a lot of bad things happened, and I ended up losing. But it's still a pretty fun game. It was an okay thing. Reverse is fine. I do hate it, though. And that's pretty much the deck. Honestly, if you want my opinion on it, it's very finicky. You do need strategy to pull off this thing, especially because you're locking your whole board so early, and if you're playing against a deck that can destroy your board because this deck can't call out his rear guards easily, you're definitely in the screwed position. But all around, the deck is pretty good. fares decently well. If you play against rush decks, this will be your reckoning. If you play like I do, it will probably die to a lot of other things. It doesn't completely screw over Chaos, because Chaos can just take advantage of this. But alright, neat deck. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Patreon, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.